To Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita from an Advaitic lens offered by Binduji. There are about 28 sessions that has been already completed. The replays are available in Clubhouse, or you can go to the links provided in the chat on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts that you can access all these talks and also previous talks from the Upanishads and Aparokshana-Buddhi, which Binduji had offered earlier. For housekeeping, I'll turn off the hand raising in the chat and the chat when Binduji is conducting the class, after which we'll reopen those for us to have a Q&A. Over to you, Binduji.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste, everyone. Let me do my invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrabhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Guru Ratmiti Murti Beda Vivakine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Bhagavad Gita Dhyana Slokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvandi Divyai Savai Vedai Sangha Padakramo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pasyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. From the 11th verse onwards on the second chapter, starting from Ashocya Nanya Shochastvam, Krishna was advising Arjuna about the despondency he is called upon himself, or the melancholy into which he has drowned himself is unwarranted for. So he spoke about the nature of the life and death and karma yoga, jnana yoga, etc. At the end of the advice on the 53rd verse, Krishna gave the summing up. Shruti vipratipanna te yata stayastasyati nischala samadau achala buddhihi tada yogam avapsyasi. That is the culmination of the knowledge which he has been advising Arjuna to. But in between he had spoken about the karma yoga, how the karma has to be done without sugadukke samikritva labha labho jaya jaya, all those things, verses which we studied in detail. I'm not repeating them again here for reminding you. You must be all familiar with that. So Arjuna starts his question. He is now asking, Prashna Bijam Pratilambya Arjuna Uvacha Labda Samadhi Pratnyasya Lakshanam Bubuksha. Prashna Bijam, that is the seed of the question. Depending upon that, Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna speaks. Labda Samadhi Pratnyasya. Samadhi Pratnya, that is Sthita Pratnya. Labda, one who has received that or one who has attained that. Lakshana Bubutsya. What are the marks of identification one who has achieved that? To know that, Arjuna Arjuna asks Krishna the question. Arjuna uvacha Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshavaha Sthitadhim kim prabhasheta imasita vracheta kim Sthita prajnasya. Arjuna uvacha means Arjuna spoke. Thus Arjuna asked. Uvacha means said or asked. Here he said that. Sthita prajnasya. One who is established in the fixated intellect or samadhi. Samadhi prajna. That's sthita prajna. Both are the same meaning. One who has, got in a state of equanimity with the resolute mind. Ka bhasha. What is the language a person of one who has attained that resolute determination or the samadhi? Samadhis tasya keshava. And how is he situated in that trance or how is he in the state of samadhi always? O Keshava, O Krishna. Sthitadhi means fixed, one fixed in the resolute intellect. Kim prabhashate, prabhasheta. How does he speak? Kim asita. How does he remain or how does he exhibit himself? Vrajeta kim. How does he perform himself or move about? So Arjuna said, O Keshava, O Krishna, what is the description of a man of steady wisdom? Sthita prajna, steady wisdom. Who is samadhista, self-absorbed. How does the man of this steady wisdom speak? How does he sit? How does he move about? Basically, he wanted to know, if I am able to strive for this and able to achieve, what are the marks with which I can measure myself? Or how do I know a person who is established himself in this samadhi prajna? How will be the general public? So both the questions are there. One from my own point of view, how will I recognize whether I have achieved it or not? The other question is from the social order, how can one identify such a person among the other so many people in the society? Both these things are conveyed in this question by Arjuna. Sthita pratishta aham asmi param brahma iti pratnya yasya saha sthita pratnyaha. So Shankaracharya is now defining who is a sthita pratnya. He in whom the knowledge that I am the Supreme Brahman is established or firmly grounded or convinced is called a person of steady wisdom, sthita prajna. Aham asmi param brahma. That is his knowledge. I am that Supreme Brahman. Tasya sthitaha prajnasya ka bhasha. With regard to such a person of steady wisdom, what is his manner of speech? Kim bhashanam vachanam. What is his mode of expression? His way of speaking. Kadam asau parei bhashate. Samadhistasya samadho sthitasya he Keshava. How he is addressed or spoken of by others. He who abides in Samadhi, who is established in Samadhi, O Keshava, O Krishna, Sthitadhi means Sthita Pratnyaha. Swayam va kim prabhashate. Or, again, how does one of steady intellect, the person of steady wisdom, speak himself of? Kim asita, how does he sit? Vrajeta kim, how does he move about? Kim asanam vrajanam va tasya katam ityarthaha. What is his posture, his movement, or how does he conduct him basically? This is the meaning which is being asked. Sthita prasnyasya lakshanam anena shlokena pruchate. By this verse, Arjuna is asking, inquiring into the characteristics of a Sthita Prajna. So this is basically Lakshana, or defining marks, or defining identity with which of a person of a liberated with knowledge. How does he, to himself and from the other's point of view? Sthita Prajna means precisely not one who thinks I am Brahman occasionally, but one in whom the knowledge Aham Asmi Param Brahma is Sthita means stable, Pratishtita means well established or well rooted or firmly rooted. This is a Jnana Nishta, what is the nature of the person. Then why is the speech and conduct are asked about? Arjuna's questions are from the practical point of view, not from the theoretical point of view. How does a knower of self, Atmajnana, or one who knows his true nature, reality, how does such a person speak? How is he spoken of by others? What are his conduct, like sitting, walking, acting, etc.? Arjuna is not asking what is Brahman, but how does the knowledge appear in life? Very important aspect. He is not asking the nature of Brahman or nature of reality or Atma or Brahman, etc., etc. But he wants to know a person of knowledge of that Brahman or Atman. How does he appear to himself and to the world? A transition from doctrine to phenomenology is what the questions are about. And the Samadhi Tasya Keshava, when he asked about it, he is not talking about or asking about the trance or the posture in which he is going to sit and walk and do the Samadhi. Because the word which he used is Samadhista, not Samadhi. Ta means here established. So Samadhista means a person who is established in the Samadhi. And what is Samadhi? We have learned it in the last class. Samadhi is the one of man of equilibrium, who has intellect is in a state of equilibrium. It is not an absorption by effort or meditation, but a natural steadiness of the intellect born out of knowledge of the truth. Thus the enquiry is about, in sum total, about a Jivan Mukta, Jivan Neva, Adya Iha. We heard that here and now, one who knows this is freed and he is elevated from all miseries. This is what the Jivan Mukta has been referred as in the previous class. And the question is, from Arjuna's point, he wants to know both the aspects of such a Jivan Mukta. How does a Jivan Mukta feel to himself? And how can others understand a Jivan Mukta or know he is a Jivan Mukta? Liberation, Jivan Mukta, is an inward, what you call, experience. Will it leave observable traces in the performance or in the content? That is something which Arjuna wanted to know. Yet those traces are non-standardizable. Hence the need for very, very careful exposition. That is why Vyasa, when he wrote Bhagavad Gita, he put this question in the mouth of Arjuna too, for that we will get the answers from Krishna himself. This is a very crucial question in the entire Bhagavad Gita. Up to this point, Krishna has taught knowledge about the reality. Na satavo vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. Then jadasya mrityor dhruvam, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. All those things he has taught about the knowledge of the reality. Then he went to explain what is a karma yoga and how the equanimity is achieved for a karma yogin. And then he concludes it with the sthita prajna or samadhista or achala buddhi. So now Arjuna is asking all these things, if it happens to a person, in individual, how does he look like when it is succeeded by a person? This is a seeker's legitimate curiosity. It should not be an imitation, but a recognition from within oneself. Nobody can imitate this because imitation cannot last forever. You may pretend to fool others for some time, later to be fooled by yourself. So, it's only a question of time. If you are not a person of equanimity and liberation knowledge, you cannot fool others for a long time. We have seen this happening day in and day out in our life about people who are, fake in the world, pretending to be masters and teachers and gurus, etc. So, the question is precise and sets the tone for the verse from next verse till end of this chapter. When knowledge is firm, life itself becomes its expression. Please understand that. When the knowledge is firm, or when the resolute intellect is convinced about that knowledge, the life itself will become an expression. Therefore, the seeker naturally asks, how does that look like? Yohi aditaha eva sanyasya karmani jnana yoga nishtayam pravurtaha yascha karma yogena tayo prajahati ityarabhya adhyaya parisamaptehe sthita prajna lakshanam sadhanam cha upadishyate. For the one who having renounced the actions from the very beginning, is engaged in a steadfastness of knowledge or jnana yoga nishta. And for the one who is engaged through the karma yoga, for both of them, beginning from the verse prajahati, that is the verse 255, next verse, up to the end of the chapter, the characteristics of the person of steady wisdom, samadhi sta, or Sthita Prajnasya Lakshana. And the means of sadhana are sought. See, there are two things which you have to understand here. While giving the definition of a person who has been established in knowledge of the reality or Atma Brahman, from his point of view, what is being explained by Krishna becomes a sadhana for one who is striving for that. Not only that, his conduct from the social order, how others are observing him or measuring him, calculating or evaluating him, all those things will become a means for a person who is striving to achieve that. Sarvatra hai adhyatma shastre kritartha lakshanani yani tani eva sadhanani upadishyante yatna sadhanatvam yani yatna sadhanani lakshanani cha bhavanti tani Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Indeed, in all spiritual scripts, Adhyasma Shastra, the very characteristics of an accomplished one, Jan Jivan Mukta, are taught as a means because they require effort. Not only that, those which require effort are both means and the characteristics. Therefore, Krishna starts Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. The two paths to the same goal, Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, both as yogas, both of them culminate in the Jnane Parisamapyate. It ends up in liberation of the individual with the liberation through knowledge. While the Jnana Yogi is the one who has taken the life of a formal renunciation or sannyasa from the outset, dedicating themselves solely to the pursuit of self-knowledge. Jnana Yoga Nishta. Whereas a Karma Yogi is the one who remains engaged in the worldly life and performs the duties with the proper attitude of offering and detachment, using action as a means to purify the mind, and in a pure mind where the knowledge matures itself. Liberation or moksha, Vishnur Paramam Padam, is not the monopoly of a sannyasi alone or a renunciate alone. Lifestyle is not liberator. Knowledge alone is the liberator. Whether you are in a monastery or in a marketplace, the preparation of our mind and the assimilation of the knowledge follow the same essential principles. This is referred in the 7th chapter, 2nd verse. Bhagavad Gita gives us a mastery presentation by teaching that serves both ways of life. So therefore, Bhagavad Gita is the encyclopedia or the handbook, whether you want to pursue the path of knowledge or whether you want to pursue the path of action. So there is a unique pedagogy of this Shastra giving Lakshana and Sadhana, both. Therefore, this crucial insight into how the spiritual knowledge is imparted is very important. Normally, a description of a finished product is different from that of an instructions to make it. For example, describing a healthy person is not the same as giving a diet and exercise plan. In the Adhyatma Shastra, where the scripture pertaining to the nature of self, the description of the wise person, that is the Sthita Prajna Lakshana, is itself a sadhana, a means to become wise. Because this Lakshana or this description what Krishna is going to impart us from the verse number 55 to 72 is both from a Jivan Mukta's perspective and also from a perspective of the person who can identify such a person in the society. Then the question is asking, why is it so? Because what is being described is not a physical or behavioral change to be manufactured, but a clear recognition of our own ever-present nature. That is why this is a Vastu Tantra, not a Kartra Tantra. It is not something which can be achieved by means of creation or manufacturing. What we are doing by the means or the sadhana is only remove the impediments in it. Therefore, the characteristics like equanimity, freedom from desires, contentment are natural byproducts for this recognition. Therefore, by contemplating on these characteristics, we are indirectly contemplating the truth of the self that produces them. The Shastra uses these to point to us to cause our own Atman or our own nature of truth. Then what is the role of effort or yatna? The passage emphasizes that lakshanas or the descriptions require effort, yatna sadhya. This effort is not to create these qualities from scratch as if we lack them. We already have them, but we do not know how to bring about from within. If it had to be manufactured from scratch or created from scratch, that would be an endless and frustrating task. All that effort is in the removal of obstacles in the form of our latent tendencies, raga, dvesha, likes and dislike, avidya, ignorance, and the veil of recognition of our true nature. These are the veil which cover our true nature or which hide our nature. And due to Shravana Manana Nididhyasana of the remaining verses from 55 to 72, we can make this effort to understand of the Sthita Prajna, which will establish us that I am actionless, non-doer Atman. And there is no doership or enjoyership at any point of time in me. And the cause of agitation naturally will vanish, thus revealing the true nature of our own Atman or our Sthita Prajna Swarupa. So the verse starting from Prajahati is where the Bhagavan starts it. So verse number 55, let us start that. Prajahati yata kaman sarvan partha manogatan Atmanyevatmana tushta stita prasnyastaduchyate. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Krishna says, Prajahati means abandoning or giving up. Yada kaman prajahati. When the desires for sense gratification is abandoned or given up. What type of sense gratification? Sarvan. All sorts of desires, which is for accumulation and preservation. Kshema, yoga kshema. That when we Rajahati means abandon or give up. O Partha, O Arjuna. Manogadan Atmani Eva Atma Tushtaha. When that abandonment we do it, by the purified mind, in the pure state of our Atman, Manogatan, you through the path of mental purification, Tada Stita Prasnya Tushtaha iti uchyate. That is the time when he is established in the resolute intellect. So, in the sentence wise, O blessed Partha, O dear Partha, or dear Arjuna, Krishna says that when one fully renounces all desires that have entered the mind and remains satisfied in the self alone by the self, Atmani Atmani Tushta, then he is called a man of steady wisdom. We cannot make head or tail of what Krishna has said. What is that he is talking about? Naturally, we need Shankaracharya to decode it for us. So, what does Shankaracharya say? Prajahati means prakarshena jahati, means parityajati. That is when, at the time, one completely abandons or utterly relinquishes. Sarvan, samastan, kaman, all desires, ichha vedan, varieties of the desires or longings. E Partha, O Arjuna, manogatan, manasi pravishtan, all those desires which has entered in the mind or taken refuge in the mind. Then, sarvakama parityage tushti karana abhavat sharira dharana nimitta sheshe cha sati unmatta pramattasya iva pravritti prapta. When the desires, all sorts of desires enter our mind, sarvakaman parityage, when that abandonment of all those desires takes place, sharira dharana nimitta sheshe sati, even though we are still remaining in the body, tushtikarana abhavat, there is no external cause for satisfaction. His activity may appear like a one which is intoxicated or careless. Now this needs an explanation. We all know that desires are not in the product or in the objects outside, nor are they in the sense organs which are coming in contact with the objects. If it is either in the object or in the sense organ, the same object, every time the sense organ gets in contact with it, should give the same sort of desire, satisfaction or enjoyment from childhood to death. But we found that so many things in our life with the same sense organs which we enjoyed once upon a time is no more enjoyable at a later stage, or which were not attractive as a child becomes attractive when we become adults. Similarly, all those things which are objects, sometimes they become attractive, sometimes they become repulsive. It is not that the same object at all the time, at all the places give the same sense gratification. That is also not happening. But all these things are changing. But we know that the object has not gone through change. The sense organ, eye or ear, taste, smell, touch, etc. has not gone through change. But something has changed. What that has changed is the desire, the intensity of the desire. The desire can be either for or against. That is for accumulation or avoiding. What we want to accumulate, we call it is good things or enjoyable things. What we want to avoid, we call it as bad things or things of distaste. But this likes and dislikes are not in the sense organs or in the object. It is in the desire and the nature of desire. So when we abandon the desires, there is no external instinct for the desires to appear again in the mind. The same object which was attracting once upon a time, when I decided that I will not have any more desire towards that, with the knowledge, with the understanding that I am becoming a victim for the desire. Therefore, the desire is only diminishing my energy, my status or my potency. The same object can be dropped by us. The object remains the same, the sense organ remains the same. But how are we dropping it? By our mental attitude, that is called the abandonment of desire. Now this is an internal thing from one's own point of view, from internal point of view. But how does the society or the outsiders view at it? They may not know the internal transformation we have undergone. So for them, it will appear as if it is madness. Because from their point of view, they have not left the desires. So a desirable object in front of us, yet we don't show a desire towards that. They will consider this person as a madman or a man either careless or, a person of disinterest. The disinterest is not due to the object or the sense organ, but it is the effort in our mind to do away with the desires because we understood what that desire can cause us. Unmatta pramattasya. Either by intoxicated or becoming careless. We go in all sorts of means for sense gratification once upon a time. But today, with the abandonment of the desires, we are neither having an attachment toward that, nor having a hatred. That is what is the most important aspect. Things can still keep coming to us, testing us whether we are getting tempted by it or not. But when with the equilibrium mind, where we know that the desire is the reason why this object was of interest to me once upon a time, or a distrust or a distaste to me, that like and dislike both are not felt in the mind when we abandon the desire. The object can come or go. It can be present with us, present around us all the time, but we will never be tempted by it because we have grown beyond the temptations. Because the temptation from within the mind is known why it was happening. Once we know why it is happening, the ignorance which was earlier making us tempted for that can never be there in us. So even if it is present in us, present around us, it will be treated as if it is something which is of no attention seeking to me. When I don't do that, what happens to me? Or what happens to such a person? Atmani eva, pratyagatma swarupe eva, atmana svena eva, bahya labha nirapeksha, tushtaha, paramartha darshana amrita rasa labhena, anyasmat alam pratyaya van. This is what I was explaining. Atmani eva. He is content in the self alone. He is no more interested in the world of objects outside. In the very nature of the inner self, by the self itself, because there are no two. Atmani atmano tushtaha. Independent of any external gain or loss, because he is satisfied by obtaining the nectar like the essence of the self, supreme reality within us. Having conviction that nothing else is needed. Yatnyatva sarvamidam vijnadam bhavati. Yallabdva na param labhyam asti. No, there is no labha beyond that labha. Atma labha, para labha. That realization of the self is the ultimate. There is nothing else needed. He remains sthita prajna. Sthita prajna. Sthita means pratisthita. Atma anatma viveka ja prajna. Sthita prajna. Prajna is what? A knowledge born out of atma anatma viveka. Yasya saha sthita prajnaha. Vidwan. Jivan muktaha tata uchyate. He is firmly established in himself, drawn inward, enjoying the nectar of the self within, and where he does not see anything other than the self. That state of equilibrium and steadiness, even though surrounded by things of temptation which others are getting tempted, such a person who is inward and established is not getting attracted or tempted by it. Tyakta putra vitta lokeshana sannyasi atmarama atmakridaha stira prajna. Having renounced the desires of son, wealth, world, etc., being a renunciate of all desires, one who delights in the self, he plays within himself. Such a one is called as the prajna. This is the first definition of Sthita Prajna given by Krishna. The word Prajahati is something, Prajahati means total renunciation. It's not a partial one. It insists on Prakrishtata Tyaga. Prakrishta means Prajahati means Prakrishta Tyaga. Not a moderate control of the desires or moderation of desires. Nor is it a redirection of desire from one object to a higher goal like a Ishvara Bhakti. But complete relinquishment of all karmas arising out of the mind. There is not even an iota of desire in that person. It is not a suppression or a repression of innate tendencies. It is a sublimation of all those temptations which are likely to come. Earlier it were prominent and controlling us, but today they have become irrelevant because something more enjoyable or more attractive or more satisfying or satiating is being experienced when I do away with all desires from the world outside. That Atmakama, Atmarama, Atmorama, that is the reason why Prajahati is important. Why does such a person look strange from the world, for the world? With no desires left for motivation of action. Why doesn't such a person get attracted? Because there is no motivation from within. Because desires have been sublimated. Yet with the body continuing by the residual momentum, prarabdha, he will continue to be a householder, or he is continue to be a sannyasi, or he will continue to be a swami, or sannyasi, or a brahmachari. But from the within, if he has done that, his language, his method, his own signals which he has got will reveal his true identity, because he will never be attracted by the temptations from the world outside. Such a noverse movement may appear to be spontaneous but unconventional. It may appear to be like a person who is intoxicated or carefree person. This is not due to negligence, but from the absence of motive or freedom from motive. But when the content from word, how does he get the contentment? If there is no motive or anything for him to this thing, why he seems to be happy. He seems to be smiling and self-content. So, how does this contentment happen? It is self by the self. Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha. The contentment has shifted toward the inward journey. Avrita chakshu amrutatvam pratyagatmanam ichat. In the Kathopanishad we studied that. For such a person, the satisfaction is self-sourced. He doesn't need anything other than his own self. He is not even wanting his body to be a cause for his satisfaction. A diseased body or a wearing out body or a dying body, he is not worried at all. He doesn't seem to be losing his happiness due to the body going through this. Forget about the world outside. And when the world outside is no more of a transactional value of interest, nor that includes his own body, is part of the world. He treats his body also part of the world. This can happen only Paramartha Darshana Amrita Rasa. That is the nectar of seeing the reality by oneself. Such a person will have a alam pratyaya. Alam pratyaya means atma pratyayena alam pratyaya. Alam pratyaya means nothing else is required, is that statement. Atma pratyayena, because what is required is the self. He has got that. When he gets the self, or when he knows he is the self, or when he sees the self in himself, nothing else is required. This is a knowledge. Jnana Nishta. It's not a willpower or a control or yama niyamas, all those titiksha, etc. No, none of them. It's not a willpower. That is the definition of the Sthita Prajna. The defining mark is in the Prajna, not in the looks or his behavior or conduct. Such a knowledgeable person is unwavering, untempted, whether it happens to his body or the world outside. How did he achieve that? From Atma Anatma Viveka. What is not me is Anatma, and I am Atma. That knowledge what I am not, when I removed all of them, where will I remain? I have only myself to remain, my own self. This will be a stable and rooted, achala and pratishtita. Therefore, such a person is called as Sthita Prajna. He is not a moral hero, but knower of the self. The normal, typical three type of worldly distractions are in the form of Eshana Traya. Eshana means desires. either for the progeny or for wealth or for the worldly recognition, etc. When such a person is devoid of all these three type of desires, it marks the samyak nasa, means extreme renunciation. It is an inward, it comes from inward, moves inward, established inside. Because the outside world is of no value or no importance to such a person. He is known as Atma Rama, delighted in himself. And he is engaged in himself, playing with himself. Atma Krida, Atma Rati. So when nothing is desired, nothing is missing for such a person. And established in the self, this knower of self lives in the world, not for the world, not for himself. His own self is enjoying himself. It is a fullness from within. He doesn't need a second one for his own happiness. We'll stop it here. The next verse we'll take it on Monday. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Thank you very much, Binduji. I'm opening the chat and hand raising. Hand raising is already open. So, if there are any follow-up questions? Today was a deep manana on the Sthita Prajna. Thank you very much, Binduji.
Okay, we'll continue on Monday then.
I have one question, Binduji.
Go ahead.
See, because the desire, you mentioned desire. So eventually there is also the desire for the self, right? Or how do you sublimate that aspect?
Desire for self can happen only when you have a self separate from yourself.
Okay.
That is not the case. You are your own self. So how can there be a desire for yourself?
Yes. So the prajna is the most important there. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Prakash.
Okay, looks like
Thank
there's
you
no
all.
fault. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll stop and close it.
Yeah.
We will
Thanks,
continue
everyone.
on.
Go ahead, Binduji. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Prakash.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to say thank you everyone for coming, and tomorrow is a open discussion, right? With Bhagavad Gita, open discussion.
Yes.
So, yes. Over to you, Binduji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you all. We'll continue Sthita Prajna Bhasha. This is the 55th verse up to 72. It's all on the nature of the Sthita Prajna, and that itself is a sadhana for us, how we can achieve the state of Sthita Prajna for ourselves. So see you all on tomorrow for the Q&A on Bhagavad Gita, Sunday for the general question answer, and Monday we will continue the Sthita Prajna. Hari Om. Good night.